Oh, you didn't.
Gary there. Just waiting for him to get in his chair. Hello. No, thank you. Lucky I'm not asleep.
Wow. But he missed outing, isn't he?
That's a bar. I mean, thank you. Tato, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us at, what are we, August Community Board meeting. So welcome to Councillor Walker, who's joining us by Zoom, and I see some other people are there as well. If we please, Deputy Chair Graham, could you please open us with karakia?
Feel free to join everybody. Kia tau, mai te maramatanga, kia tau, mai te rangi maria, kia tau, mai te kaha, me te whai whakaro, mo tēnei kaupapa. Tui e tāhire.
Board Member Knowles, would you like to join us at the table? So welcome, Grant from Golden Bay. Okay, we have, no apologies, just reading the long list in front of me. So we're going to go straight into public forum. I'm going to ask if you have registered for public forum and you can articulate what you can articulate in 3 to 4 minutes. That would be really helpful. So generally we have 30 minutes put aside for public forum. I haven't closed it off. We've got 8 or 9 registered speakers. So if you do that, sums. So we're definitely under 5 minutes. If we're 3 to 5 and succinct, it's even better. But welcome, Mr. Footing. We're in your hands.
Thank you, Councillor and Chair Board Member Brent. Yeah, I think the compliance is important. I remember last meeting, there was a certain group that went way over time. So I took that as not a good.
Just taking 10 seconds, Mr. Footing.
No, you can start.
Oh, actually, before you start, can I just say, I need to go away from these meetings more often because certainly numbers have grown. If we need to evacuate, obviously there's two ways there. The reason that doorway's quite sparse and there's no chairs there is to keep egress. But obviously, if there's a fire alarm goes off, we're going to go out, assemble in the car park. If there's an earthquake, we're going to stop, drop and hold and see what this man beside me does. Then we'll take some instruction. But in terms of your comfort, and as you leave, if you can just make sure your chairs are still where they were so there's egress that's maintained. But yeah, incredible number of people. Thank you.
Thank you. My time starts now.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor.
I gave you 10 seconds back.
I have the pleasure of doing a radio show on Fresh FM because we're going to be talking about the e-bus today. What a spectacularly successful introduction that was. And if you go on the radio show, which is a public service announcement, you'll hear the Mayor of Motueka in the final interview. That'll be next Monday at 9:30. So I had a great pleasure of enjoying the bus ride. Importantly, I write in congratulating TDC and the Nelson Council on the facilities that the e-bus has given us. Really enjoyed the inaugural ride and it was convenient and accessible. So get on the bus multi-weekends, no excuses for not going EV. However, that's the good news. The bad news is the introduction via the B card has been a complete train smash. I have a card that was used in June. It was debited before I got it. Number 2, I've paid $10 on my card. It hasn't even gone on the card. Number 3, I'm waiting for the customer service from Nelson City Council. So to what extent that's going to take away from other users remains to be seen, because if there's one person, there's probably a couple more. So the other thing is the imposition that the library staff here at Motueka Library had to endure because of what is really a service delivery stuff up. There were cards, there were 3 or 4 days where there were no cards whatsoever. And I have a little office section table I sit at, and I was listening and people saying, where are the cards? What can we do? How do we get on? And the library staff were throwing their hands up in horror. So, you know, library staff are really well trained. They're fantastic here in what they do. And my heart went out to the girls for having to put up with it. Apparently it's getting better, but maybe the beeline could have a beehive somewhere. Service personnel doing just that, given that it's an important thing. But the e-bus does work. So listen to the radio station and thanks for the opportunity. Can I have a credit for next time?
You do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Joanna, Santa Barbara.
No questions? No?
Oh, sorry. Any questions?
Maybe just one.
Yeah.
You said the library staff didn't have any cards. Do you know how the time frame between the buses started and people wanting cards that was?
Serena, I remember the one day they had no cards for 3 days, and then 23 cards arrived. So the number of people that were going to the service desk and interrupting the library flow meant that the library staff had to, one, issue books and then suddenly start putting money on cards. It never went, not for their sake, but there was quite a hiatus there. Apparently 300 cards arrived the other day, but if you look at the start of this news line, that was no less than April. 19th of May. As a service delivery aspect, it could have been organised better than that. So, thank you.
Yes. Welcome, Jana. 4 minutes, according to my thing is. Welcome.
Thank you, Vince. I'm Joanna Santa Barbara, and I'm representing a number of people here today, a collaboration of several groups wanting to let people know about the development of a repair cafe in Motueka. There's the Motueka Repair Cafe group, which centered on Keely Ann Robinson, who began about a year ago to initiate this idea with the purpose of helping low-income families. And then there's the Nelson Tasman Climate Forum, of which I'm the co-chair, which is wanting to back this as an effective climate action. And based on several years of a successful repair cafe in Nelson. And there's also another group called Textile Activism in Tasman, led by Beerta Steele-Becker, who is TDC's welcoming committee person. And she's interested in cutting material throughput and lessening waste. So our combined, out of this collaboration, our combined vision for Motueka is a town where resources and energy taken from nature are used with respect, and we repair articles to reduce what we take from nature and reduce what we put back to pollute nature, what we consign to waste, and we leave families better off financially. The values driving this effort are probably shared by all of us, that we're all interested in trashing less of nature, in consuming less and polluting less, and in coming together in a community-led action to share skills and enjoy each other's company. So what would happen at a repair cafe? Once a month at first, it would be held in a central venue, and this is one of the venues that's being considered. And you'll turn up with your jeans that need patching, or your toaster that stopped working, or your knives that need sharpening, or your bike that needs fixing. And you'll be met at the front desk by someone who'll direct you to the relevant skilled person. And that person will set about the repair and, if possible, show you how to do the repair. And while that's happening, you'll share a coffee and biscuits with others, and you'll chat about life. And this will be a free service provided by volunteers. So what are we asking for? We're asking for your support from the community board, your advice, and a grant to run this for a year, 12 events over the next year. It's even possible that some of you may have repair skills to share. And that's it. And thank you for your attention. And I wanted the community board to know that we're doing this and that we have an application into you for support.
Thanks, Joanne. Any questions? How's that? Any questions?
No questions, but it was a wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we're on a roll. That's 4 minutes in a row. Kelly Stockdale.
It's in. I'm hoping it's going to be in the machine.
I'm hoping so too.
Kelly, sorry, what's it called?
Presentation simple.
Do you want to swap with me and while someone else loads up? Where is it?
Big boy gene children.
There you go, that one.
I don't know where to look now.
Oh, that's that one. Do I have a button to press?
No, sorry, you just need to give me a nod.
All right, okay. It's going to be a quick, a lot of nods. So I'm here to talk about the SDGs as they're known, 17 sustainable goals. And they've all disappeared. Just click, yeah, just run down them, that's fine. Or unless you want to run it as a.
Just reacting to it because I haven't had it before the meeting, so yeah.
Right, so if you just flick through 2, 3, and 4 relatively quickly. So the SDGs have some very good ideas to save the world. A lot of them are warm fuzzies. End poverty, end hunger, healthy lives, inclusivity, etc. Next. Gender equality, availability and sustainable management, affordable, reliable, sustainable, modern energy, etc. And so on. Resilient infrastructure, inequality within and among countries, which is a big one. I'm going to speak on 11 and maybe one other. And next one, please. So urgent action for combating climate change. Next, please. And promote peaceful and inclusive societies. So the next one, 7, is what I want to talk to. So goal 7 is ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. And it sounds really good, but then when you start penalizing coal and gas and oil, which we are trying to get rid of, you end up with a problem where we don't have the power, literally, to do the infrastructure because all our solar stuff, etc., needs that to be made. We cannot yet make steel with electricity, etc., etc. Next, please. So while we are heading on the high road to electricity, this is what we've got under construction elsewhere. 128,000 power plants in China, and those will mostly be built now, only take 3 or 4 years, probably quicker in China. 36,000 in India, 11,000 in Indonesia, etc., etc. And we need the oil and the coal to make a lot of this stuff. So ours are disappearing, and we're going to have trouble keeping up. Next page. So these are the nuclear power plants under construction. China's got 21. I know about the UK because I used to work for NNC, which is a national nuclear company. They've got 8 currently. They're decommissioning 3. They're rebuilding 2. If you're Russia, you use your old submarines to power local towns on the coast. Next. So why are the 40 largest asset managers in the world buying up coal mines? Because effectively electricity isn't going to help us. We're going to need a huge amount before we can actually supply ourselves. Germany, Poland, Netherlands, Hungary, Denmark, and quite a few others are buying gas from Russia, even though they are, quote, sanctioned. This week, Rishi Sunak actually said they were going to open up oil and gas fields, and they are putting out tenders for, I don't know how many, some enormous number. It's rather surprised, actually, because they already know they can't support the country on electricity alone. They do have a big problem with wind farms offshore. And my brother-in-law works for Vesta in Denmark, and 1/3 of their power plants are offline all the time because of the salt. That's what you don't hear about. France is exporting nuclear energy to 3 or 4 countries in Europe. Next, please. So we need cobalt for our green stuff. This is one of the biggest coal mines in the world, and it's in DRC. 80% owned by the Chinese. They're big, and there's a lot of problems associated with that. Next, please. So our question, or my question is, can a sustainable world be built without the exploitation of others? And this little picture of the little girl, she's got severe deformation, what's the right word? Thank you, deformities from heavy metals from the cobalt. It's a brilliant little YouTube 20 minutes doco about that, about cobalt in Congo. Excellent. So the next one I want to
It's 4 minutes, so you got 1 minute.
I've got a minute, okay. 20-minute cities. Can we go to the next slide, please? So 20-minute cities were actually brought into New Zealand to all councils on the 9th of August 2021. And it is not a conspiracy theory, despite what they say. And it's all about being connected. People, digital, AI, people are connected within their bodies, within their phones, within their front doorbells, you name it. And that's what it's going to. So next. I can't read it all.
I can't read any of it.
I'm sorry, it's too small. What will smart cities really mean for the average punter? Limited mobility in and around the town with charges to leave the area, restricted access to options we currently have, reduced options of travel relating to your carbon footprint. So if you're in the UK now, you get things every time you book a ticket, you get told how many carbon footprints you've used and whether you're allowed to use another one. Surveillance, even when you go shopping, you need an app to get through the door. Next. So this is run by the UN. They are unelected, they're unaccountable, and as far as I'm concerned, they're unwanted. And no one has been asked, not one of us in the room has been asked, would we like this? Is it good for us? What will it do for us? How will it benefit us? So that's mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well done. I reckon that's 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
Oh, hang on, we can't. 5 minutes.
I've gone over.
Yeah, you have 5 minutes. 5 minutes includes questions. Thank you, but you can catch up afterwards.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Seb Paul. So if you want questions, then you'll need to speak for 3.5, 4 minutes. Did you present last time, Seb? I watched the video. I was actually quite intrigued. Welcome.
Very nice. Thank you. Do you want to put on as a slideshow? Is that going to be easier or?
She said slideshow, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I had to click you through.
We won't start, but it comes.
Just want to go straight to the next page. So in C40's own words, C40 Cities is a global network of nearly 100 mayors of the world's leading cities that are united in action to confront the climate crisis. What science and what data are they relying on, you might rightly ask. In July, next please. In July of 2020, the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group published a framework for cities to build back better using the 15-minute concept. So what is a 15-minute city? Next, please. A 15-minute city is described as a city reorganized into distinct commutable districts. A district is a geographical region where all necessary amenities are available within 15 minutes of walking, biking, or public transport to minimize travel. The purpose of a 15-minute city is related to the ability to provide immediate response to one or more crises. This implies the city is equipped with policy and tools that can monitor and control specific aspects of infrastructure and civil activity. But next, please. 15-minute cities and smart cities, as well as other initiatives, including the relocation of those living in urban environments, are an implementation satisfying a high-level framework proposed by the United Nations. This framework is called Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 is a plan of action containing 17 sustainable development goals that we've just heard of and 169 targets. It is a declaration by UN members to radically transform economic, social, and environmental policy under a unified, idealized, or ideological vision. And through C40, we have mayors of cities all around the world, all working to the same targets and guidelines as to how they're going to reduce the impact of climate change and global warming over the next decade through these smart and 15-minute cities. Here we have Sadiq Khan. He's the Mayor of London and is also the C40 chair, which might be why he is pushing the expansion of ultra-low emission zones, or ULEZ, even in the face of so much opposition. If he fails in the implementation and expansion of ULEZ in London, then he will have failed in terms of the C40 goals, which includes the agenda for zero car ownership by 2030. Next, please. In his words, the city uses the necessary financial, regulatory, and other tools at their disposal to address the climate crisis. That translates to They are going to tax and fine Londoners out of their cars and regulate their personal freedoms out of existence. Next, please. So this is what C40 says. They're discouraging private car use through road pricing and driving and parking restrictions. And they're making private vehicle use more expensive or inconvenient. Is essential to driving a modal shift. So in current car ownership in the UK is 594 for every 1,000 people. According to the C40's goals, the progressive target by 2030 is 190 cars per 1,000 people. Their optimum target is 0. Let that sink in. The C40 organisation wants 0 car ownership by 2030. I reiterate, I want to say this is not some conspiracy theory. This is published information in their own reports on their website. Next, please. So who is pushing this agenda? The C40 website lists major funders and partners. I don't have time here to go into all of these and highlight the obvious conflicts of interest here. Next, please. I will highlight a few in their track records. Sorry, one more. We've got American Express, FedEx, L'Oreal, and IKEA. And they all score extremely poorly, including negative marks in many categories on the ethical consumer site, which highlights their poor records regarding pollution, toxins, animal testing, factory farming, workers' rights, habitats and resources, and irresponsible marketing. Ethical consumer actually goes as far as advocating for a boycott call against American Express. They also score extremely poorly regarding environmental reporting, political activities, anti-social finance, arms and military supply, human rights, and climate change. These are companies financing C40 cities. Next, please. We have Open Society Foundation, founded by George Soros. Here's a Newsmax article of George Soros's 6 biggest controversies. Another man funding C40 cities. Next, please. There are so many examples of corrupt and unethical organizations sponsoring this agenda, which I wish I had time to go into today. And one can't help but question if all of this is really about saving the environment. I challenge you to look into other organizations listed on the C40 website and try and find an ethical organization funding or partnering with the C40 cities without ulterior motives. In summary, it would appear we have some questionable people and organizations with dubious environmental and human rights credentials pushing through the C40 agenda of smart cities and 15-minute cities under the guise of climate change and environmental protection. You, our representatives, have a responsibility to look into these organizations and start seriously questioning who is pushing the ideology behind these agendas and why. Think for this. Further, you really need to answer why 15-minute city infrastructure and projects like cycleways are the focus for resources during a cost of living crisis. When rates are increasing, when our farmers are struggling to cope, and when our town's businesses are suffering, this doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Matt, Peter, Matt.
I just wanted to come in off the back of what Seb was saying. So in regards to the local government funding agency. So something that's come up that some people are familiar with or some may not be is the debenture trust deeds. So just a little bit on that. Whenever we have these capital expenditure projects, particularly if they're external borrowings, we're looking at these how are these borrowings secured? So what they've put in place is these debenture trust deeds. Now, what happens in the event of a default of a debenture trust deed? Well, we have a situation where the security trustee or the debenture trustee he has power over certain rates-related assets of that local authority for the benefit of the local authority's secured party creditors. Security party creditors means they get paid no matter what. So the question is, we have, as the people here, we've got these capital expenditure projects that we're having very minimal say in. But if anything goes wrong with these projects, and if they're external borrowings, it's coming back onto us. It's falling back onto us as citizens, as to pay the ratepayers to pay the bill, get cop with the bill. Is it something we wanted in the first place? Well, we have a little bit of input as far as a consultation, but how much say are we really having out there? So, why is it that the ratepayer gets levied, these levies put onto them. What is the mechanisms behind this that's allowing us to have these levies imposed on us without our consent? We never went into these obligations without our consent. We never gave it was never our free will to go into these agreements that have been formed by our representatives. So I just want to bring up with you, because I don't have much time, but I think it's important that everybody educates themselves on the doctrine of tenure in estates and land, because I think this is where a key point is. In a New Zealand Law Commission document, the following are extracted statements. All land is held by the citizen as a tenant under a grant from the Crown. You don't? So another one, strictly speaking, subjects own not the land itself, but merely an estate in the land, which confers certain rights of use of the land. That, my friends, is what the problem is. You have controlling interests in your property. You don't own your land. No Maori, no Pākehā, anybody, no Māori, no Pākehā, anybody in this country owns their own land. We want to talk about, so there's certain mechanisms to getting the right of property, to getting full and complete title. We don't have that at the moment. So at the moment, you have other controlling interests that are allowed to take on implement levies and stuff onto your rates, because you don't have that full control of your title. A title deed is a fee simple. So you want to look into these things and understand what these mechanisms are, because I can tell you now, ownership is not what you think it is. Ownership of land is defined here in New Zealand as land as estates and land, buildings and other permanent structures on the land, meaning even the buildings, the structures on top of the land, they're not yours. They're not your, it's ownership. It's a definition that counts. So you own an estate and land, which is a right of use to the exclusion of others. I think it's about time we owned our own land. We are the people, we are the donors of the land. It's our birthright under common law. And it's about time, if our representatives aren't protecting our birthright, maybe it's about time we started claiming our birthright. Any questions?
Questions? Within your time, I guess I'll say, sure. No, you can't, sorry. So the questions are for this table. So what I just want to make a statement of it, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but this community board has very limited delegations. So the last three presentations are very high level in terms of actually government policy,
Yes,
government direction. So this board's role is one of advocacy for things that council have control in.
sure.
And to be fair, I get where the link is, because this has come up because of the cycleways.
It's got to go. It's got to
So I see where that's come from, but in terms of future presentations, I'm going to ask our board secretary to make sure it needs to be absolutely relevant to the delegated authority of the community.
Well, who decides it's relevant?
Sorry, Mr. This is not a debate. This is just, so one, it's very important, so thank you.
Yeah.
But I guess whether the community board is the right forum for this high level.
Well, this is the community. I'm part of the community.
Absolutely, but what I'm just preempting is that this is the community board with limited delegations, and this board talks and makes
You're there to represent us, aren't
about
you?
this. But we
You're
can't do
representing
anything
our
about this. So you talk about the
Well, we can.
LGFA.
We're the people.
Now we're
That's the
debating.
community.
Thank you. That's enough. Thank you. But thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. No, come back. Councillor Walker. She might have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I do.
Councillor Walker.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, kia ora. Thank you for your presentation. Just a point of clarification, you quoted something about a tenure in estates and I couldn't quite hear the rest. Are you able to rephrase? Do you know where
The
I'm?
doctrine of tenure and estates. It was released by the New Zealand Law Commission. So it's something of antiquity. They even talk about about the artificiality of land law.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying
No
that
problems at all.
Thank you for that.
for me. Thank you.
Man. Phoebe Newlands. Phoebe. Saw. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all board members today for holding this space for the people and the community. First invitation I would like to talk on is this actual community board meeting itself. I would like to see it given more 5-minute slots and at least 2 10-minute slots for bigger topics. I know you've given more today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
As the world is changing dramatically and more stress for people and our communities, I ask for you to allow more space for community to be heard and the room today, put your hand up if you would like to see more 5-minute slots for the community to speak. Yep.
Well, this won't be your time, Phoebe, but your ability to speak to the board who probably you didn't all elect me, but who you elected around the table is that this is becoming like a show. So I get that there's participation and the support out there, but your time, the 5 minutes that's minimal, is to tell us what you want us to hear, and we'll go away and come back with an answer that you may or may not like. But yeah, so you keep going. I won't cut your time.
Okay. So obviously we want at least some time for the 5 minutes and the 10 minutes. Be nice to have 10-minute slots where we've got people to do bigger conversations without having to worry about that. And I'd like you to please welcome the feedback and consider it moving forward in the public of Motueka. Next invitation is today we would like to invite some key players in the council to be invited to our emergency Motueka and wider community public meeting. When we leave today, we will be sending you invites who is invited to the public emergency meeting. We would hope that you would attend this public meeting and for you to be open and hearing the people's voices and concerns. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing the invited members to this meeting, and we hope you honour your people.
Thank you. I have got one question. So, just for clarification, I'd get the invite, but the public meeting, even if we weren't invited, so there's people here, we could still come to the public meeting. Is that correct? That's going to be, yeah. Okay, thank you. I just thought you might exclude me so I could still come. Thank you. Mr. Ian Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Community Board and visitors. In a recent publication of the press on the 1st of August, under a bold title of National Pledges 270 million to build the Wood End bypass. What's the application? It's on the northern end of Christchurch. The leader, Christopher Luxon, went on to say their party's transport policy measures at a total cost of 24 billion, would slash congestion, unlock housing growth, boost productivity, and lift incomes. Modern infrastructure like roads, public transport, networks, and energy, etc., are fundamental to the quality of life of all of us. I was issued a mail drop from MP Maureen Pugh, who I had spoken to on her last visit to Motueka, and we discussed the importance of a bypass to the welfare of our community. In her mail drop, I mentioned this again to her. Subsequent to that, I've seen that the Hope community has a bypass being mentioned currently. And also in the same press edition with a picture titled The Plan Called Gateway to New Brighton, which is one of the suburbs of Christchurch. That's the application. Involves a major improvement to Pages Road, including this replacement bridge, quoting a value as 65 million, and to repair streets and a new bridge. In the mail drop, I also mentioned a new bridge over the Motueka River, which essentially is a lifeline for Rewaka, Takaka, Golden Bay, and Kaiteri. Maureen had mentioned when we had spoken together while she was here that she and another MP had witnessed 2 camper vans clipping wing mirrors when passing each other on the Motueka Bridge. She termed it totally dangerous. So I'm hoping we can get a bridge built to help our community. And then number 3, it seems a long time since we have heard an update on the Waimea Dam progress. Could our newsline have an article on this, please? And finally, I'd just like to mention, for the interest of all male members of the meeting here at the Community Board, our prostate cancer screening submission to Parliament was submitted on the 27th of July this year with 30,000 signatures in support. So what we're looking for is something similar to what the government is providing for ladies with breast cancer screening. I think it's high time we had something for men. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any questions? Thank you. Dr. Robert Mitchell.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm talking about residential amenity. So it's a little bit selfish. It's not United Nations, and I apologise for that. But we all love Motueka, and I'm a committed Motuekan, if I can call myself a Motuekan. I'd just like to make 3 points. First of all, I'd like to say I'm really pleased with the program on the progress on the walking and cycling strategy. I know everything, the submissions have closed, and I'm optimistic that something really good is going to come out in September. And I know I'm pleased to note that there's $8.7 million from government sources that can be applied to hopefully useful projects in our community. Having said that, I'm really worried, and I'm sure a lot of people are worried, that we do rely on external funding through the Main Roads Authority to fund local infrastructure. It seems inappropriate. We've got a main road that goes through the city, but why should that, we have to rely on that body for the peripheral support infrastructure. It's totally inappropriate, and council and government through MPs really need to address this. Secondly, I'd like to say that there's a battle of two cities. I'm calling us a city here. We're almost a city. We've got a cathedral. But when you look at Richmond and the cycle and walking trails, the recreation trails in Richmond and surrounds, it really makes us look very, very poor cousins here, and you wonder why. And it's really strange that there's no decent connection apart from the main highway with our subsidiary outliers like Tasman and Mapua, and yet we've got commuters and they're part of our community. They come here for shopping, etc., part of our recreational community. So why haven't we got a decent recreational trail there? It's appalling that we have to go over an old coach road over Tasman View to have a cycle trail over there. We've got an absolute, we talked about wing mirrors on the Motueka Bridge. Your life's in danger if you go on Highway 6 between here and Tasman. And yet you've got sections that are about 1.5 meters wide, and then you've got virtually nothing. So why is there inconsistency here? Why can't the local government work with Waka Kotahi and get a decent connection? And the same goes when you talk to transport through to Rewaka. So that's the two city inconsistency there, and you can see the recent development in Berrylands or Berryfields, which highlights that. I'd lastly just like to mention that I'm really grateful to know that there is a plan to develop the trail along Wharf Road and then along the quay and coming back to Staple Street, which I proposed a couple of months ago or a few months ago. And I would like to ask whether the community board can ask council to make sure that the standards for that trail are in accord with the Aus Roads standards. I know that the council staff are having trouble trying to meet standards that have been agreed with NZTA in Australia and New Zealand standards. So if we're going to go and invest 8.7 million or whatever it is, we've got to make sure that they're proper international standards that we're getting in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Sorry, no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Peters. Philip here. That's us. Righty. According to my list, that's public forum completed.
Mr. Chairman, can I give a letter of thanks to the community board?
You can table it. How's that? If you,
What's that?
do you want to table it?
I can read it out in 2 minutes.
No, just if you can, I'm happy for you to table it, but we're,
Okay.
Yeah.
Do that.
yeah, is that all right? Thank you. And we'll circulate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for all the help to get this all in advance.
You're welcome.
Hugely appreciated by a huge number of people.
Thank you.
And I've made it clear and there.
Thanks very much.
It's really good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What we'll do is we'll circulate that to the board members. So you've got a copy of that. Where am I? Lost public forum. Minutes of July. They've been circulated. Next, so minutes of July. So somebody was here. I'm happy to move the minutes of July. Board member Armstrong, seconded by board member Hutt. All those in favour, aye.
Right.
Against? Carried. Okay, declaration for interest. Board member Armstrong. Crafty Tarts. Crafty Tarts discretionary. Any others? Noted. Presentation. No discretionary fund applications.
Chair, is there a declaration of interest when we go through correspondence for the special project from our town Motueka?
No, because it's not, we're not making a decision on it. It's fine.
Thank you.
Just manage that as we go. Yes, great. I can't multitask. Yeah. Okay, we're going on mine. Can you hear us, Councillor Walker? Page 4. Discretionary grants in front of you. Anybody here from Motueka?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks.
Anybody here from Motueka running for disabled? Yeah. Oh, welcome. Do you want to come up and just have a seat? Somebody may have some questions. It's in front of you. From memory, this was about the first aid kit for horses, if I remember.
Yeah, first aid items for horses.
And is it Sarah?
Yes.
Welcome, Sarah. Has the board members got any questions for Sarah?
Good to know.
Member Hughes.
Sort of more of an acknowledgement of the work you do. My son I've got a handicapped son, and decades ago he was interested, and it certainly helped him. It's a wonderful thing, I believe. Whether or not they're suddenly interested party or not, but I could just acknowledge that. Thank you.
I think he's going to move it. Any questions?
I'll second it.
So move Hughes, second Hutt. Any other discussion, questions? Councillor Dowler.
Is the horse okay now?
Horse,
Treated? It was treated.
we've got several that are being treated at the moment. Yeah, we've got 8. We've got 51 riders, so we're growing the whole time. And with horses, you always have various things.
Like humans.
Yeah.
I'm going to be naughty and just talk to. Used to make me sad when RDA's COGS and lottery grants come to the board because their depreciation schedule has a different meaning.
Yeah.
So often there's a depreciated person with a name on that list.
Right.
So moved by you, seconded by Hutt. Any other discussion? Any other questions? All those in favour, aye.
Right.
It's carried. So I've just done them individually. Sorry, Emma. Thank you, Sarah. That's fine. And then have we got somebody here from Crafty Tarts? Welcome. And is it Yvonne?
Yes.
Welcome, Yvonne. Any questions for Yvonne? So this is moving up to AMP showgrounds is for 3 cupboards for storage, if I recall properly. Any questions? Happy to move by Deputy Chair Graham, seconded by
Happy to second.
Councillor Dowler. Oh, Councillor Dowler just beat you, Councillor Walker. No, any other discussions, any questions? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried. Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, so I'll move the report, seconded by Board Member Hart. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
It's carried. And thank you for coming. So sometimes those community grants don't go that quickly, and sometimes there's questions, so it actually does pay just to be here to answer a question if it does come up. So although they weren't today, that's not always the case. Okay, item 7.2. Crikey. Which is on page 15. So the chair's report, so I'll move that we receive the chair's report. Somebody a second? Deputy Chair Graham. Okay, so as we go through that, so the code of conduct being, there'll be a new date come up for that. So the call was made by Jenny and I on Thursday last week, the day before. So the state of the Taka Hill and the unknown, a card got off. So that was postponed. So the new date will come for that. The next part, seeing if Councillor Walker puts the hand up. So you'll remember some discussions we had with the regulatory department in terms of the TRMP and some funny little bits. Through some of the pre-LTP stuff that's been happening, I've learned there's an omnibus process for minor changes to various bylaws. Councillor Walker, we'll come to you in a sec. So this is, I guess, following up on a request from the board in terms of the current 8-week rule in the TRMP, and whether there is a desire for the board to ask council to review that, and part of one of those minor changes, which would simply be changing the 8-week to a bigger number, and i.e. a minor change. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess when I read the response that we got from staff, I was quite concerned because it goes down about what it would cost to make the changes. I guess my voice on behalf of my community is what's the cost that it's currently costing individuals and my wider community by not being able to embrace and make these changes. I think that there's always two sides to the ledger, and currently the personal cost of many individuals not being able to stay in their homes on certain sites, for me, outweighs what it would cost if we were able to do an omnibus. And I know, you know, and I guess the rest of the community board might not be aware, as us councillors are, that often there's conversations had in chambers around omnibus changes. And I certainly would like to push and ask for support to get this reviewed under omnibus. Thank you.
Discussion, and then we're going to get some advice from Mr. Ridd. It's just the right person sitting next to me today. Any other board member Hughes?
This 8-week rule, as you know, this business is the catalyst for me in my dealings with Tasman District Council. I have huge amounts of paperwork, and that paperwork shows the real extent that the Tasman District Council are prepared to go to enforce this. And I have brought up many questions in relation to this. With the help of legal people behind me, I was involved with the Alan Dahl case. There was 4 of us: Daisy Smith, John O'Voss, Alan Dahl and myself. Fortunately, I had a partial win. So I was chosen, Alan Dahl was chosen as the best case. But there is a dark side to this, what TDC call a discrete piece of legislation. What it means is that if, as I said, if you live in a caravan, tent or bus for 8 weeks or more, it becomes a building. I have a legal definition here of what a building is, and I have regularly brought this up with the Tasman District Council. The only big answer I got was vehicles can become buildings because they are attached to land by gravity. There you go. And that is from the head of the department. That's not someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. That, if you want to clarify, that was made at the March 2020 meeting in Murchison. I was told off for laughing. But it's all very well trying to get a small change to this 8-week thing, because people go on holiday longer than 8 weeks. A temporary residency in New Zealand can be 3 years. This was brought in under dubious circumstances in the beginning. The first group of people to face action, I believe, were a group called the Appleby Domainers, and they were forced off their land. And it's carried on. Over 20 people I was involved with were, let's not call it evicted, because our mayor said they weren't evicted. So I accept what our mayor says. But there was an abatement notice issued. I've seen the abatement notice, and I've also got emails from. It's forced them out off their land. It forced them into homelessness. It forced them into living in cars. There has to be a social conscience here. There really does. We have human rights in respect of the right to shelter. This just denies that. So we either need to embrace what TDC do. We have to say, right, let's get on board. If it's against the rules to live in a caravan, bus or tent for longer than 8 weeks without paying your due bills and doing what Tasman District Council want, they cannot live in the Tasman District Council area. That's it. So we either embrace it or we fight against this. I've got fixed to land as a test. This is the test of this piece of legislation, because if it becomes a building/structure, it falls under the definition of a building/structure. And I have here a Skerritts of Nottingham versus the Secretary of State for the Environment, where there is a detailed definition. And I'm sorry, if it's on wheels, it looks like it isn't becoming a building. Sorry, that's a very passionate point of mine. I've seen so many people whose lives have been ruined, they're forced into hiding and they're forced out of the region due to a small, discrete piece of legislation. It's just not what we are in Motueka, I consider. Thank you.
Just reading the 4.2 in particular, I do feel a little bit embarrassed where it talks about making the changes and the current TEP review. There's not much to be gained. By who? And then it carries on to say, so we better wait and consider it. I find that really embarrassing, especially in today's day and age where we're always talking about homelessness and how we can help people, the cost of living, and how we can assist our community. And we've got the opportunity to do that, but we're saying there's not much to be gained. It's going to cost, a few thousand, let's forget it. I find that really embarrassing. Thank you.
Yeah, I just need a point of clarity, I guess. So the 4.2, we sort of got that in an email earlier, but 4.3, are we saying we still do an amendment without all those costs that were laid out earlier, or is this?
We're going to put Mr. Ridd on the spot for a second. So I guess this is your chair trying to be clever in terms of a minor change to an existing bylaw that there's been other discussions for, and a minor change is just a number. It seems minor to me. So, but we're lucky because Mr. Ridd heads policy. Oh, Councillor Walker, you happy to go to Mr. Ridd, or do you want to say something?
I just want to quickly add, because I've had a fair bit of anaesthetics and my brain's not functioning as well as it could. I know that they say, that the TEP or the NTEP will make these changes, but I think we pointed out in the last meeting, and I don't know if actually that was highlighted, that is not a change that's going to happen overnight. And that's like, from what I was told, that's a 10-year process. So for me, you're asking my community to continue, a particular group of my community, to continue to be marginalised, and even more so for a very long period of time. So I'm really hoping, no push there, Mr. Ridd, being that you've just landed back in the country, but that an omnibus is a way forward, because at the minute, there is, you know, there is no options for us. And yeah, as board member Hutt has said, I mean, it compromises our community big time. And I'm sorry, but I can't just sit here as status quo saying, oh, well, it's in the process, but it's 10 years down the track. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. So what we're going to do, we'll go to Mr. Ridd. So there's two bits in terms of maybe some explanation around the omnibus process. It will be for council to decide how they navigate it, but this here is really going, it's just something the community board's really passionate about, and I believe it is. So in terms of just noting that, and whether we need to get a paper back and talking about the omnibus and the bits and pieces, but the community board can absolutely elevate this to council as a request from the board, and it may be something board member knows that you take back to Golden Bay Community Board as well. But yeah, Mr. Ridd.
Well, my suggestion is you recommend to council. Yeah. That's that forward recommendation to council, which we've played through the minute to council, and I can then take it back to the team. I guess the issue we face is we've had this change in government legislation, which is the RMA reforms, which has really stopped us in the tracks to be able to actually review our TRMP. Because when I first started here, there was a whole review of and it became the environment plan. We've had to put that on hold because of this whole change in government legislation. And so my first advice is do a recommendation up to council that will then flow through into the process. I can make sure my team knows about the feeling of the board. I don't know about price. I don't know what's driving that. You know, there's always a cost for doing these things, but I mean, should that be a driver for decision making? That's up to council to make. It'll go through a consultation process and we'll see what comes out the other end. I can't promise that we'll remove the 8 weeks or whatever, because that's not my role. But all we're going to do is provide advice to council, what the legal advice is, you know, all these definitions you allude to there, to allow them to make the right decision, I guess. I don't see it as a big... what I would say is we've got a number of issues with our current district plan, which does affect our decision making, which isn't helping. So we have to fix some of that in the process of this. So, I mean, that'll slot into it, I guess, and you'll provide a recommendation to council. That's what you want this board to see happen. Now, I can't say whether that's going to happen because it'll go through a process, but all you can do is recommend to the board, to the council.
Helpful. Thank you, Mr. Ridd. Board member Hughes.
Okay, it needs to be noted that at the present point in time, the Tasman District Council are taking 2 people to the Environment Court. And I've been involved with both of them. That's their only connection, by the way. I've been involved with helping both of them. I'm appalled. That's my personal opinion, and I'm still allowed that, I understand, until that changes. However, in view of this shows if they're going to spend, the TDC are going to spend ratepayers' money to take somebody to court over what I'm not going to get involved with because legal, this, that, and the other. But it's not that big a deal. It really isn't. And we need to remember our obligations under the Human Rights Act. You can't make people homeless. And this does exactly that. It makes people homeless because it isn't just off that piece of land. It is in the Tasman region. So if you are found guilty of breaching the Tasman Regional Management's plan of 8 weeks, you have to apply for resource consent. And as I understand it, it's the same as if you were building a 250 square metre McMansion. You know, it's the same things. I believe we go the other way. I believe we show that this rule is wrong. And we can use what I was advised and looking through all my paperwork, all of this is discretionary. Okay, the Tasman District Council doesn't have to do this. It's like they can actually go, we don't even need to apply a building consent to this. And I think that was applied that, don't quote me on this, but I believe somebody was building a dam over Waimea. And I think I read in the paper a couple of years ago that they were not doing the costs for that to try and keep costs down, but don't quote me on that. I think that's just from memory. But look, it seems to be so easy to sort this out. You know, human rights is one of them. And I've been having the same discussions 4 years ago with this. Oh, we'll change this, we'll look at doing this. And it's 4 years later, and actually they've upped the ante. So as I said, I think the board needs to go, no, this is wrong, or get on board and say, right, let's get rid of all of those people and just help the Tasman District Council.
Just need some clarity then. So do you not want to pursue the minor change?
Well, yes, I do. But what we're getting back here is not a definitive yes or no, and let's do this. We're getting, all I see, this is noise.
So what this board can do is recommend the council. That's all this board can do. And so what I need to check in is you know, are you going recommend the council that the whole thing's rubbish and you want to debate the whole thing, or
Will you,
now are
whatever
you
we
happy for an increase to the minor change?
We'll use whatever we can. Yeah, I'll go with that. But as I said, I've been hearing this sort of thing for 4 years, and for me personally, I don't have any faith that the Tasman District Council are prepared to change anything. But I would dearly love to have somebody at Tasman District Council come back and say, hey, we're listening.
It's okay that Barry, Trinity, I don't take that personally. And we'll come back because what I might ask you for to consider if we're recommending a number, what that number might be. And are you thinking more 156 weeks, 3 years? Do you think that?
Yeah,
Graham?
that is up for debate. For me,
Deputy Chair Graham.
No, I totally support what you're saying, Nick, and is it possible that the board can put forward both, like one, an amendment to the weeks, and then also a tail on that, the review, like that we initially had said, a review of the entire piece, so that at least potentially one of those things will go through, and obviously it will likely be the cheaper one, but.
So the answer to the question, yes, the board can recommend the council, whatever the board wants to recommend the council, or request the council. So, Mr. Red.
Absolutely, but there are some legal requirements. We have to make sure we adhere to legislation. So our advice to council will be to ensure we adhere to what legislation says. So you can put whatever you want on, but we'll provide professional advice around does that actually comply with legislation?
I guess for the board, it would be helpful if we do a little bit of homework around getting the wording right, so that we're aligned with legislation, with what we put forward.
Yep.
So, I've got one more question. You might or might not know this, Mr. Ritt. The time frame for any potential plan changes with this omnibus process, is that the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 36 weeks? Do you know, have any idea where that might be, what you've currently got?
I'll come to this entire.
I just hope.
Quite honestly, it's not going to be 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It's going to be months.
Okay, so we've got another.
And it's a long process to change it. But like it or not, it's a long process to change a plan.
Yeah. Just didn't want us to go away and pause the workshop and then go, oh, we've just missed the slot.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Okay.
To clarify, when I was meaning Tasman District Council, that's who I was talking about, employees at Tasman District Council, senior manager, not you.
That's
okay.
But it's us.
I'm us. But it should be noted that various councils have different interpretations of this. So when you mentioned about, we're adhering by the rules, you could still adhere by the rules. Alter some places are 3 months.
So what if I come?
I don't see where the problem is. It's simply.
If I come back to this, because you're talking to the chair at the moment.
Sorry,
you didn't look like you were talking to the chair.
Yeah, I wasn't. Sorry. I'm getting used to all this.
In terms of where the board wants, and this is where I'm really looking at. I think Councillor Walker, in my opinion, quite clear. That's why it's here.
Yeah.
But we need to tread carefully in terms of not being excluded when we get to the council table. So there's two things. Do you want to workshop this as a board? It's the 4 board members, and perhaps board member Knowles could go back to your chair and see if there's an interest from Golden Bay, and the 8 board members could workshop this, which would be powerful on this basis, and maybe a plan B. And perhaps the deputy chair would lead that discussion. Okay, is that okay? Will we land on this?
Fabulous.
Happy, Councillor Walker? Councillor Walker?
Can I just say, love to do it with community board, but I'm consciously aware, sorry, Golden Bay, consciously aware that as two different community boards, we struggle to get around the room in a appropriate time frame. And you just look at Friday's hui, which we've been waiting weeks to do that, and that got stalled due to the weather. I'm just concerned that this will push out further and further. And I hear what John Ridd says, that omnibus change isn't happening overnight, but we do know that there's work being already happening on other topics on the omnibus change. And I just don't want to think the fact that we've said we as two community boards have to get together, the time stops that being productive. Sorry.
Thank you. How about we let the board members workshop it?
Yeah.
Share your stuff with Golden Bay Community Board.
Yeah.
So share your bits and pieces, and if you enter dialogue and you find some common ground, you find some common ground.
I just think, I just want to set expectations here. The expectation is that rule might not change.
And I guess the expectation is it definitely won't change if they don't ask.
That's right.
So that's where we are at the moment.
And the other people can apply for resource consent, of course.
Yeah.
Now, if there's restriction, well, you can. And if there's a restriction there, let me know what that restriction is. Is it, is it
Usually
financial, is it cost?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Board member Knowles.
It might be a considerable idea to talk to each other when we have the other week that we missed out on. That's going to come up again, the conduct. So maybe we can just take it on the end or beginning to make that dialogue happen.
Yeah.
Then that makes sense to me.
Excellent. Okay. So, and
Sorry, I just need to clarify. Do you need staff there to be able to answer questions?
it would be handy if there was somebody that understood. Oh, I guess no, because the request is going to go to council, so the staff advice is going to be the council.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So on this basis, I think if you take away from this basis, if we just note in the chair's report, we discussed this, and the board's going to workshop and pursue recommendation to council changing the current 8-week rule to a bigger number, whatever that number may be, and then you've got a heads up, and then it'll come formally with potentially A and B. Okay.
And then, sorry, through the chair, then what Deputy Chair Graham said is we do our homework before the workshop so that we look at the legislation and word it very carefully.
And my recommendation was that if you pick the phone up to Mr. Ridd and just say, what is an omnibus? What is the process? And just some of that baseline check is this will be a recommendation to council. Council may choose to explore it and include it, may not, but it'll be.
The quickest and easiest way is just make a recommendation to council without, you can do a workshop if you want, but you'll spend a heap of time checking out legislation, and you can either accept the officer's advice or you can question that advice, but we can do that background work and provide that to council.
I just don't know what, I don't know what the plan B is. So I know what, if it was just simply this, but if there's also a desire to recommend a plan B, a full review, because that's where the conversation started. Let the boards talk about that, and the default is plan A.
For clarification, it has been mentioned many times about, and we're on YouTube, so I understand there'll be a lot of people talking, why don't we just get resource consent? Why doesn't somebody figure out that? And that's an excellent point. But the very nature of a caravan truck bus is it is generally temporary. I'm a perfect example. I dared to buy a tiny home, and I'd been quoted around $30,000 to do this. My tiny home's gone. It's gone. It was just a wee. I should never have bought one. It's just a nightmare.
You may not have been sitting in the seat you're sitting today, Mr. Hughes.
What I'm saying is it's gone. So let's say I went through the proper channels as told to by Tasman District Council. It's gone now. And where is my $30,000?
With the tiny home, it's gone.
Yeah, with it's gone. Right. So that's most of these things are not actually, they're still temporary. I mean, to live in a small box.
Yep, we're not going to, we know where we've landed. Sorry. We're moving on. Number 5, so just acknowledge the e-bus and actually acknowledge your team at the library, Mr. Ridd. It was actually quite timely that you heard that probably some of the frustrations they had to put up with B cards and bits and pieces.
What I was going to suggest is we might come back with reports in terms of progress for the next board meeting.
Right. Yeah. And you'll follow up with Mr. Fori.
Yeah, I'll follow that one up as well. Yeah.
So number 6 is, oh, sorry, Councillor Diallo.
Yeah, I'll just read out quickly what has happened over the first 2 weeks for the bus journeys which come through. 15,500 journeys, a 44% increase from N-Bus. The N-Bus daily average was 1,800, E-Bus average is 2,600. The 1,200 Motueka Wakefield journeys. Weekend journeys have increased by 195%. Weekend increase from 916 to 2,709. There's 40,000 website views and there were 2,000 B cards issued in Nelson and Tasman. That was as of last Friday. A 44% increase is one hell of a lot of cars off the road already. My wife saw a group of people getting in just down the road from McDonald's on the bus the other day. 4 people had suitcases. Obviously, they're off to the airport. So, yeah, I'm very pleased that what started in 2015 by a simple meeting in the Nelson room that I attended has actually come to fruition. I'm happy to retire soon now.
It is weird seeing those buses around our streets, isn't it? It is a little bit weird. Amazing they get through, but yeah, so yeah.
For drivers, yeah.
Okay, and just LGNZ, so just to keep out, and I don't know who will do this, Mr. Kirby, maybe Democracy Services. There is a Zone 5 community board group.
Yeah.
So maybe and just keep the deputy chair alert to that, and perhaps you could usually you're in Christchurch, they're in Christchurch, they're a Zone 5 community board network. But there's that PD, that professional development money that was put aside in the budget. So it'd be nice to get some utilised.
So is an action there?
Yeah, it is.
So what can we just do on the action then?
So the action is just seek out the Zone 5, so the Zone 5 community board network.
Yeah.
And just for whoever, probably Elaine.
Yeah.
Just to look out for that. If there's some opportunities to attend, then to contact Deputy Chair Graham.
Okay.
Items from public forum. So we also have a new system for interim, and that a Democracy Services person is now going to reply to the responses from public forum. I'm just whispering so Councillor Walker didn't hear it. She has it.
I heard.
So any items that you want to discuss from public forum? Councillor Diallo.
Just to let you know, I attended a meeting this morning in Richmond regarding the up and coming national policy statement for the future funding for Waka Kotahi from the government. Apparently it's coming out on Thursday as a document to be put out for public submission to see whether the people in New Zealand are happy with it or not. Then it may get adopted by the current government. It may be pushed over to the whoever's successful. And they might not like it and they might review it. And it might be the middle of next year, and which means we won't get any funding to continue with our roading until that's signed off. But anyway, one of the things that did come out of that meeting is, as of today, to fix the problems on our roads, which is potholes and slumps, etc., any government in the future is faced with a $5 billion bill before they even start doing anything else. So there's been lots of promises made. This is from the Waka Kotahi people, by people to say they're going to do this and they're going to build that and they're going to do the other things. Before they do anything, the government has to come up with $5 billion to let Waka Kotahi bring the roads back to what they were like 3 years ago.
Would that be STMS?
Yes, that was discussed as well. The cost of traffic management has absolutely got out of control, and that's something that they're going to deal with the Minister of Transport after the election about, to try and some common sensibility amongst it. But anyway, that was the message that I took out of the meeting this morning. So yeah, $5 billion is one heck of a lot of money. That's all I've got to say. Thanks.
Board Member Hart.
Just on the public forum items, so Mr. Williamson's item 1, which talks about the well-needed bypass, at the very least a heavy goods bypass. It's also noted in the correspondence from Alison Hickmott So it is, again, a hot topic. So what is the next process? Do the councillors, the council lobby central government? What is the next step?
We all lobby just for a bypass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the next step?
Rightio, so there was a proposed possible bypass indicated in the 2010 traffic study. You've still got my book, haven't you? Yes, okay, that's fine. So there was some indicative stuff that was put out. And back in then, the NZTA at the time indicated that it could be a project within 20 years. Obviously, it's not going to happen because that's 10 years ago, or 13 years ago now. But anyway, so possibly, I don't know whether the community board can put a recommendation through to the Regional Land Transport Committee. Say that they'd like a discussion with Waka Kotahi regarding a future bypass for Motueka. First thing that has to happen is the land has to be designated for a bypass. There was land designated for a bypass down Chamberlain Street, straight through to River Road across a big long 150 metre long, whatever that was, bridge. That was going to cost an absolute gold mine, and NZTA canned it and sold all the land off. So that designation disappeared.
Mr. Red, then Canon.
Do you want to go, Fendi, first?
Councillor Walker?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all that information you just gave us, Councillor Dowler. I guess for me, for public forum and being on Zoom, it's quite hard to actually 100% hear everything. And I don't know, Emma, if all those people registered prior to speaking, but I'm really keen to understand a bit more about where Matt was coming from. How do I access context for that?
Email. Yeah, the secretary has his email address.
And is that allowed to be shared?
She will ask him.
Thank you.
If Emma emails.
Okay. And I guess at some point we'll get an invite to this community emergency public meeting. Presumably Phoebe never left anything in the room tonight.
No.
All right.
No.
All right, thank you.
Correct.
Sorry, I thought Trindy was going to talk about that. So sorry about that. So yes, Councillor Dallas bang on lobbying. I would caution, be careful what you wish for with bypasses and things like that in terms of vibrance of the town. That's the only thing I'd caution on this stuff, because there's more to it than bypassing the traffic around the town. You know, there's people rely on that through traffic to, I presume, to run their businesses. So that's the only caution I'd offer.
So where do you want to go with this?
Just, can I speak again? Sorry. So with that comment, it's interesting that a lot of the business owners are really advocating for a bypass because they want Motueka to be a destination, you know, like Marpura has become. And so effectively you would, the heavy vehicles would bypass so that they're not through the street, but people that wanted to come to Motueka to shop and have their lunch and everything, it wouldn't affect that, you know, and then we can promote the town as more of a destination rather than, and obviously there's big safety improvements in that. So
to answer you, it's lobbying probably the best vehicle for the joint.
I am a member of the Regional Land Transport Committee, so that's why I can speak about it. It'll be great to be able to shop 7 days in Motueka, all the shops open. It has to be a destination. Ask Temuka. Temuka put a bypass in. Within 20 months, half the businesses had closed up and left. Now they've all shifted over.
Now we're going yes or no.
Yeah.
Noted. Does the board want to lobby, request a meeting? Deputy Chair Graham?
I was just going to say that it may be worth us consulting Mr. Curry from AA around that, because we had some good information and recommendation around bypasses for
Do you want to workshop it with somebody, or do
just.
you want to invite them to the next meeting?
Well,
Give me some leads.
we can do it. Yeah, we can get some information to.
Maybe if you want to come, you can invite them in.
Yeah.
So while we're on inviting them in, and we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Just so I remember. So there was a question from Phoebe about, I think, so that has happened. So just, so the definition now is the 10-minute, which used to be the presentations, are now part of public forum, if it's a group or an organisation. So I guess, Councillor Walker will correct me if I'm wrong, because I struggled with the definition of a group of organisation. If it's a group of people and there's a spokesperson, I think they're a group, which will give that 10 minutes. The standing order is still only allow 30 minutes, which is the challenge. But there is absolutely that opportunity to 10 minutes, because much as I'm a little bit critical of how it fits in, I'm fascinated by a couple of those presentations that don't do it any justice in 5 minutes. And what also does it disservice is it's a presentation on information. It doesn't relate back to the board or what we could do, where the 10 minutes would give that slot. So, perhaps if this is recorded and people that are presenting in public forum, rather than 3 speakers, 1 at 10, present and then allow some more interaction, would be more helpful to both parties than just a half of information overload and no ability to interact. But at the moment, the 30-minute limit is there, and that's a challenge that we talked about when that was amended. Yes.
Could we adjust it and have a slot available for 10 minutes? And so if somebody wants to talk 10 minutes, we say, well, look, this month's taken, but we can fit you in next month.
Standing orders if it's a group. So if it's a person represents a group of people, it's an it has 10, it can have 10 minutes, it can ask for 10 minutes. But it means that if we have 2 10-minute presentations, it's only 2 5-minute public forums left. Unless the agenda was like today and whoever's chairing allows a couple more, but that's the challenge that we have. But it doesn't have to be here. So the board can come together and meet with people outside of this as well. But so the 10 minutes is there, but just when they register with the secretary, they need to say it's a group representing these people. My understanding is it doesn't have to be a formal group. It could be a group of residents down a cul-de-sac that they've got a spokesperson speaking on their behalf. And until we hear otherwise, that's how we'll treat it, because it'll either be you or I hearing. But it may be helpful to get actually more impact to the presentation.
No, I just want to acknowledge, I mean, it's been, the last 3 meetings have been chocker with public forum speakers, and it has been really interesting. And just going back to a point you were making earlier, I think it is a place for people to speak, and it is useful for us to hear these things because they are impacting our community. So I totally took the use of the 10-minute presentations, or like you said, getting the community board together so they can have a more in-depth presentation.
Yeah, and the key part is it has to relate to the board's ability to do something. And that, and that's understanding what the board's ability to do stuff with as we navigate this. A couple of decisions, how long it's taken to go, we'll workshop this and we'll come back for some information. So, otherwise we hear, but the ability to change it. So maybe standing council meetings, because you can zoom into those before. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thanks. To clarify, that was my understanding as well. I guess what I'm putting out to the board is how do we get that message across so that the people who come to public forum tonight, next month, don't realise that they've got a 5-minute rush it in, or actually 3 or 4 because the chair goes, we've got 8 people registered. So what comms are going to be done to take our community on this journey of, if there is a group of you, then you get 10 minutes. And I guess I want to clarify or get it clarified, sorry, does that include us? So when you do a 5-minute presentation as an individual, we can only ask a point of clarification. If it's a 10-minute, do we get to ask questions?
You're at the same time as I was, Councillor Dowler, can you recall?
I understand that everything's within the 10 minutes.
It's 10 minutes and it's questions for clarification rather than engagement. It's not debate, is it? It's, you're never going to change, the comms is never going to change an ADHD chair, unfortunately. But,
we could try. Oh, we could
Always, I'd
try.
rather try and hurry people through than not let them speak. So that's the call I made today. To be geographic.
just speaking to the comms, councillor Walker. So we have drafted up, there's some posters on the wall around discretionary fund. We've also got one around public forum. We're just trying to get a shorter link to include in it for people to connect, so we can add that clarification around the 10 minutes. So I did this during during my time in your seat.
Okay.
We're still finalising it.
What do you mean, Armstrong?
I just want to support what has been said a couple of times in new during public forum, that the subjects that people talk about are things that are relevant to the board and to our community. And I'll be unpopular in saying this, I would suggest or ask Chair to consider rules about board members around the tables applauding with clapping at the end of speeches. To me, that's a sort of.
I might have missed it. I guess so. That's for board.
Allowed.
So that's for board members' responsibility, is that you're here because people put you here. I guess that sometimes is a popularity competition, but in terms of how you hold yourself, I'll push back, and how you hold yourself at this table is your responsibility unless it's causing issues to others, and then or I take offence and you'll know about it. But yeah, point taken. Board Member Hughes.
I'd like to thank you, David, for pointing out that. Being a new board member, I wasn't aware. I am now aware, and I disagree. I'm sorry. People have voted for me because I'm me and I'm real. And if I feel the need to clap because I like it, that's fine. Thank you.
Well, we'll check it in terms of absolutely also having the respect for people that sit around this table and for each other.
Okay,
right. I'm lost. So sorry, public forum. It's still on the public forum. So meeting. We've just noted Dr. Mitchell's comments about the cycleways. And I think we've. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Williams? What's some other bits? Was the bypass? There was the.
So just to clarify about the standards, Australian New Zealand standards, that's what you can
Mr. Mitchell, they were up for standard. Yeah.
Yeah, we might catch up afterwards if that's okay.
Okay.
Have a chat.
Right. Anything else from public forum? And are we, Dan and Amy, are you sitting behind me? Over there. Do you want to come up and is there any update for the board? Is there any questions the board might have? Anything that popped out of?
Hi everyone, thank you. Yeah, just going to provide a brief update and then available for questions. So, yeah, we've been working in the last couple of weeks to get Shape Tasman updated. So there's quite a cool interactive map now with we've got road cones on where we're proposing to do work. So some a lot of what we're proposing is on that Shape Tasman website now. So that's really good. So yeah, feel free to jump on and have a look. Parr Street footpath, which was one of the scope items we've talked about with the community board previously, that's still on there. We've had a chat with Teafina Marae and waiting for some feedback from them on actually extending that around the corner and looking at a couple of options for the north end of Queen Vic as well. So they're not confirmed items yet at all, but we are sort of investigating those in the background. We're making, there's still work being done on the High Whakarewa intersection and some options there are being looked at. We're keen to keep the ward councillors really well informed on that one, and we've got some meetings coming up on that. The foreshore path was brought up earlier in the public forum. So we are Also investigating in the background some options for an upgrade to the foreshore path from Old Wharf Road through to the saltwater baths. Obviously, there's a reserve management plan in place, and we need to ensure that anything we do is within that. We had our first batch of safety audits back this week or a few days ago. So those, what happens now is they're responded to by the designer and then the safety engineer at council, and then finally the kind of end client at council. So good to get the first batch of safety comments back. And yeah, I've had meetings with all 3 emergency services now. So police, St. John and fire and emergency, and yeah, all pretty supportive. Fire and emergency did have some comments that we're thinking about and going to go back to them on. But it's good to have had some initial discussions with all of those parties.
Questions, board member.
So just a couple of questions. We did talk about it briefly last month when we were talking about the estuary cycle lane improvements from the canal through. We were talking about whether lighting being
lighting
on the pathway
From the foreshore path from Old Wharf through to the saltwater baths.
Yeah. And also when you were talking about the liaison with the emergency services, know that you've had discussions, I believe, with the AA, with Malcolm.
Yeah, we met with Malcolm.
Was there any concerns there, and what was the general feeling?
No, general feeling was pretty good. Malcolm, yeah, we talked through some comments that Malcolm had originally, and yeah, just gave him a bit more information, and he was pretty happy. He had a couple of specific comments on the proposed raised crossing on Old Wharf Road, and I've come back to him on both of those, and he's full. He hasn't actually responded, but given him the reasons for our thinking on 2 minor points that he raised.
Can you hear Councillor Walker? Oh, yep, cool. Those must work well.
Thank you. Yep.
Any questions? I don't think Councillor Ogilvie could hear my comment. I stood out the side of one. Any other? No? Wow. Things change in 2 weeks. Oh, Councillor.
Rob O'Grady's got his hand up.
Mr. O'Grady.
Kia ora.
You're invisible.
Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Something else I can add to Dan's update is at the last community board meeting, there was a bit of discussion about the path opposite the aerodrome. So this is not an official path, but where the reinstatement occurred after Network Tasman had been through. And it seems that this would be a popular addition to the program amongst some, and Dan's been out and got a price for it, and we're working through some of the details, and if we were to include it, we'd probably have to take something else out. So when we come back about the proposed signals at Whakarewa and High, and also the foreshore path, we'll have a sort of an either or decision for the community board's input on.
Thanks, Rob. There was no questions until you presented. Is there questions, sir? No, there's. Thank you. Thank you for the update. So we're just noting the correspondence. Yes. Noted. And items from board members. Board member Hutt, I know you've got some.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple of points. I'd like to let you all know that on the 22nd, Friday the 22nd of September, there will be a Meet the Candidates meeting held by our town Motueka for the upcoming elections. So I can email out the invitations. It's going to be a members only, our town members only meeting with the community board and councillors invited. So it's not a public meeting because we represent the business association at town Motueka. So So yeah, I'll send the invitation out, but basically the evening, 6 o'clock at the golf club, Friday, 22nd of September. So the next point is we did liaise with an update from Waka Kotahi about the east side of High Street in the CBD area with the camber of the road, with the damage to the frontages. So just wondering if we could perhaps face off, or whether you've got any update on that, Mr. Chair.
I haven't got any update. We'll follow that up. We'll follow that. I like that we. I like that royal we. We've got
Great choice, minutes. I'll get back to you.
Cool.
And the other one, I know we do say that in the correspondence, we don't talk about things that are general service requests, but I have put a couple in the past about the Motueka and the Walk Bridge, and trees and the debris still.
Oh, well. I think quite
with the trees and the debris, it's still this huge amount on there. And I know it's not a 5-minute job, but really just to follow up on that as well.
It should be a service request system.
Is this kind of best boxes?
No, Waka Kotahi, the bridge, we walk a bridge, the deep round it.
Yeah.
Weak bridge, yeah. It's a Waka Kotahi thing.
And I have put 2 in, so there should be a record of it somewhere, but it's just not, it's still there, and it just concerns me that it's putting a lot of pressure on the water flow. And the other one is I had a meeting today with the New Zealand Motor Campervan Association, and they were talking about, it was mentioned a while ago with working with TDC to possibly extend the campground with 40-ish more parks. Really just, is that a go? What's the update on that?
It's quite challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a go at this stage.
Right.
Are you communicating with the NZTA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Graham Wilson, yes.
ZMCA.
Yes.
So who's Graham Wilson?
He's the chair.
For NZIPS.
Yeah.
But what Mr. Might be able to help us about your second question. That's in advice, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we might need your help.
Might need
for this
for
one.
the second one. So the second question
One is friendly towns.
is the Motueka, I believe, has gained the classification of motor camper friendly town, whatever the saying is.
The NZMCA tend.
Yes, because of the second dump site. So is that correct?
Well, they dish that out.
Right.
They usually give a sign that you stick on a lamppost somewhere to say they're motor caravan friendly. And so they've got some criteria on it.
Right, okay, because
Given by the NZMCA, not council.
not okay, right. So if for example we wanted to put a big sign up to say that we're a motor, that would be something we would get permission from TDC for.
They've got their own signs usually. From experience, they usually provide a sign, which is not massive, but it's enough. But it also they publicise it through their membership as well. Does that help? So it's usually the ball's in their court, really. I'd say.
Yeah.
It's a little project you like, board member Hart, as a board member, just follow up. But
Yes.
just check, now that we've got the double side, are we specified, meet all the criteria? When's our sign coming?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what they used to do, whether or not they still do, because it's from experience. So.
Yeah. So if we could follow up on that, that would be.
We actually to close off your first question, board member Hart, is there hasn't been progress on the extension of that site. It sits in the enterprise committee's delegations. You'll remember there was a paper to the board about some planning, a budget for some planning for that whole area. That hasn't happened. So that's in that mix, but at this stage, no, it hasn't been approved. You don't need anything from officers for MZCA. Board member Hart is going to go back and talk about the site, and if she needs anything, she'll come back too. Is that sitting reserves or is it sitting?
Well, it's actually probably because it's on the state highway. There's probably some.
Guarantee.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. just following up on a couple of things that were mentioned at the meeting last month, and I know, John, you've only just got back, but one came up in public forum last month about the plaque installed on the building down on Power Street, the old library, and the other is those precious tonga that's sitting there, and the Kia Sato team are here at the beginning of September, so we need to get those. I can see your finger up. I guess you've got some responses. Thanks.
Oh, sorry, I was, the date was what I was after, so beginning of September, did you say?
Yeah, Brent will probably, the chair
Beginning of
will be
September
able
is a
to
great date,
confirm, but I'm pretty sure it's the 3rd, maybe the 2nd. It's a Sunday anyway, because I know I'm on call to work.
Yeah, thanks.
Just a response, councillor. So the plaque is not straight. We had a quick look at that. We thought it was screwed on. It looks like it's actually part of the building.
Oh.
So I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as you think it is. And part of me goes, that's relevant to the library there, the old library. I don't know the relevance to the new library, but you know, that it is what it is. But when we had a look at it, it's not a screwed on plaque, like a brass plaque or something. It looks like it's been somehow stuck to the building. So it's not going to be that easy to get off. So that's number one. So keen on some direction on that, but I don't fancy getting my chisel out. The second one is now we've got a date on the Sister City. What I was trying to track down was the original Sister City agreement as well, because I think that's part of the story we need to perhaps tell. It sounds like it's in our archives. Tara's managed to sort of track it down in our archives. So just looking at how we can use that as part of the display as well. Okay, so whether that's a copy or whether that's the original, we're just doing a bit of work on that.
A copy of it.
I'm pretty sure that Mary LaFrance has a copy of it, but it's like 34 years ago, so it would be in archives, I would imagine.
Yeah, I've been emailing. We've been emailing on that now and back. So yeah, we're on to it. Okay. And now I've got some sort of feeling when the delegation's out, that puts it on steroids a bit.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing is, Chair Maru, are you pushing with a date to meet up with Ross and Martin Tunnelly? Because I think it would be quite a good time for us to be catching up in light of recent events happening in our community.
Excuse me. I'm just having a moment. Who's Ross?
Oh, sorry, that's not his name. His name's Scott, actually.
Oh,
That's what you don't know. Scott.
I
Scott
can do.
Tunnelly.
You know, I can do. I think Mr. Tunley, he might have, if he's not, he was acting regional commander for a bit. Let me check when he's back in. Actually, Scott's probably just okay. Be fair.
I don't think it's just okay. I think it would be great to have him just quietly. And you are right, Martin Tunley is away on secondment doing something else at the minute.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I can do that.
Thanks.
But while you I know you'll keep your ears open. So one thing that Mr. Ridd probably hasn't had a steer on is the significance of Mr. Fearon. Because how I remembered it is the original library was at the RSA building, and then the park was relocated. So it was more about recognising the early settler in terms of the link with libraries. So from a board perspective, do you want to give any steer in terms of should that be moved or recognised in some way here?
I think so. I just spoke.
Is this in relation to Mr. Hellier's letter about the plaque?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's a plaque, wouldn't it mean just putting that plaque on this?
Have you been here for the last 2 minutes? Have you been playing games on that computer?
No, I haven't. I'm about to speak here on this, and I'm very worried
Brick
about
and
it.
mortar. It's not that easy to move, Nick. Even I got that.
Can't move.
It's not a plaque. It looks like it's actually either glued to the building or
a ridiculous request from Mr. Hellier.
But some recognition.
Recognition of
Just, yeah, you're going to have a plaque, make a new one. Yeah, same words on it.
So from a board perspective, I think you've gauged that the board has some support in recognising one of the founders of libraries in Motueka.
So why don't we just have a bit of a think if we can do that slightly differently, tell the story as opposed to a plaque?
Perfect.
I like that idea very much.
Perfect. Good. Now I am lost. Mr. Hughes, let's just go to you. Then I'll regain where I meant to be.
Not.
We're not
it'd be-
Special projects yet, no.
I thought there was an update.
Oh, no, that's later on.
Thanks for the action. Or
You were still in Chair's report.
It's an update.
Is there anything else from? Oh. Yeah.
So because I'm.
Yeah.
we are on the action list.
You're going to follow up.
Are we on the action list?
Yeah, we-
Yep, had several meetings and
This one.
Rob is going to hopefully pull together some quite some.
Page 18. We're just on the action list because you, one of the councillors brought us to this. Mr. Kirby, who's responsible for the planter boxes on High Street? Nelmac. There you go. So the answer is, so Nelmac will maintain them. Any issues? Nelmac. So that can come off then, let's close that. What secretary request to manage able to provide any statistics to the board on people living in vehicles?
We did get
Done.
them.
Done?
Yeah.
Yep, closed. So.
Sorry, actions.
What's that?
I'd quite like to have that, sorry, I haven't put my hand up. I'd quite like to have that kept on the agenda and we review it in 3 months' time and have it as a regular, you know, quarterly or something check-in.
Why don't we just then ask, why don't we just put in there that we'd invite quarterly updates from the regulatory manager on that rather than, so if we change that action to request, and it may be, why isn't it just same cycle as what he reports to regulatory?
And
Sounds good to me. I just
sorry,
don't feel lost.
just on that, because those figures were slightly quite a lot different to what is recorded from Community House.
So if I can maybe respond to that. I imagine this is only service requests that council receive. So that's going to be so which one do you want? You want to go off?
Actual homeless people.
And when council's not, we're only going to see stuff that people report that, you know, I don't know, someone's here and there and everywhere, or whether or not do people present to an agency here?
Actually, I'm just thinking, if council's going to report on the service requests that have gone through, that maybe we get an update around what action has been taken.
Okay. So we're just focusing primarily on service requests to
Yes,
do
because we
with.
can get the other stuff separately.
Okay, cool. So you want to see action, what action's been taken?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
an update, yes.
Have we done there now?
I just,
A few pages and pages, please.
Yeah,
we-
we're having a running action.
Just.
Can I just have a point clarified through you, Chair?
Of course you can.
So the service requests, are they coming through from Adrian's team when they're out and about, or is the service request coming through from our local community who rung in with a concern about somebody living in a vehicle?
I'd imagine both, councillor.
So Adrian's crew go through as a service request?
Potentially, yeah. We'd have to do some digging and find out.
Yeah, could we have some clarification? Because I'd like to know that the figure we're getting actually correlates with what it is, because at the minute it's just kind of a guess, isn't it? Because I'm aware that it doesn't match up with Community House or MSD's figures or the Salvation Army's, for example. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, there is a few more, isn't there? Street, heavy vehicles. Yeah, your pages out of sync. Heavy request. I don't think I've done that. Here, Murray, to request that heavy vehicles on Park Street be added to the next operations committee agenda.
I looked at the agenda and I couldn't see it there anywhere, so.
It's the August agenda and member had to attend. Is it on the agenda for?
Couldn't see
I
it.
didn't read it. I didn't see it. Are you attending the operations meeting on Thursday? Will be about.
No, is the short answer.
No. Okay.
I can.
Oh, it's irrelevant then. It's okay.
Well, I know that it's not on there, so yeah, I looked at the agenda.
Councillor Downer.
With the upcoming speed limit changes go out for public submission in October, the outcome of that may shift the heavy vehicles to somewhere where we don't want them to be. That's over to the public to tell the council what we want. And it hasn't been decided to go out for consultation yet, but it's not far away. But I've seen it through the Regional Land Transport Committee, a draft, and it's scaring me. So we need feedback from the public.
This is where the trucks are going to go.
No, I'm just telling you where the trucks will go to avoid the possible reduced speed limits if they happen.
We're doing
More down past.
a workshop on Friday.
Yes.
So
You'll get a handle on that and hopefully put a submission in when it comes out.
I was overseas at the time, but I think I saw a staff report about seemed to be a request from senior management that we need to get on board with this. So otherwise we're sort of considered noise. Is that right? How I
Interesting how 4 words out of a whole meeting is reported on sometimes.
Yeah.
It did make stuff.
But if it will be good if they do have proper public consultation and it is listened to, but we this is about putting in speed humps and 30 kilometres an hour.
Speed limits.
Not necessarily speed humps.
Well, I think that would be a good idea if we want to if you want to fix.
You'll be able to provide feedback through the process and you'll get some more information on Friday. Deputy Chair, we're going to have a chance to put, I'd say, well, let's just quickly do these. So Operations Committee, do we still, do you still want to present something? Board Member Hart, it'll be at the September meeting now, and I'm actually not going to be at the August meeting either.
Date sit in
Tuesday.
September. I go around the 27th.
Let me know. Come back to me.
Have to find out when the meeting is. But yes, please.
Deputy Chair discussed with Rob about a public meeting for Transport Choices, Motueka.
Yes, I emailed him. He's been away, but we still need to connect.
Okay. We talked about the library, talked about Kia Sato. We're going to refer public forum questions regarding Cycle Way. I think we've done that, haven't we? Rob to refer public forum questions regarding walking and cycling strategy 20 to 52, the transport planning staff. I actually don't even know what it means. Page 20. Oh, so it's just referred to the transport. Okay. Well, can we close that?
Do we know if that's happening?
I don't know.
Can we just leave it like
Okay.
that? Just so we can follow it there.
Mr. Drummond has. And that's, so that can come out. So the one where the TRMP, that's the how we've ended up with the workshop about the change to the number of days.
Yeah.
What is the appetite for joint by? Yep, so you're waiting to hear for that. Martin, so it's going to be Scott. And Deputy Chair to catch up with fire and ambulance when needed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not having much luck with hearing Mike, so yeah, it's a work in progress.
Riddell.
Yeah.
Chairman, to follow up the diving operations complaint following councils. So I've sent some other emails in terms of those questions for that. Not yet. No, I suspect it's in the Goima process. Board Secretary to arrange a workshop with Group Manager Finance. Well, oh, so this, we weren't sure what this was about. So I got an email from Mike's EA and he's going, what is this about? So what's that action? I couldn't answer it. So Mike come and presented. Oh, remember Armstrong.
He was starting to say, well, what I was going to say. He presented about discretionary fund and special projects and whether we want to move something or change the rules about that, limits or how much for the year. Golden Bay looked at that yesterday, right? Golden Bay looked at discretionary funds versus special project yesterday. Or was it? Oh, no, went to council. We went to council.
Went to council, yeah.
So that was what this was at. He left it with us as to, as my memory says, left it with us to work out how we're going to manage that. I was going to ask the question anyhow. That this to me ties in also with the current. I was going to ask if there is any progress on the matter of land purchase, use of RSCs and special projects surplus allocation. There's a whole lot of stuff around there. And I think we're all waiting on this land purchase thing. Is that going to be made clear to us at some stage so we can progress the rest of it?
Yeah, and there was my response to the thing. So as far as I know, no update yet on that. Excuse me. So the discussion of the special projects and RFCs and stuff, hopefully September. So there should be an answer by that stage. But in terms of workshop with the group manager of finance, board member Knowles, did you have somebody workshop that, or did you just put that request? How did you write your proposal?
I actually missed the workshop. I was away, but we workshopped it some time ago, and we found out what we can actually do with our board funding and whether we can shift funds from one account to another so that we have more in the discretionary fund. Yeah. And I believe that is the case. So it was a workshop. Yeah.
And did you have Mr. Drummond there, or did you just have it with the board?
No, we had Mr. Drummond. We definitely had him.
Oh, you had him. Okay. So should we?
It was very useful, and the board got a lot out of it. So I think, yeah.
So because the board has had Mr. Drummond and he presented, but they didn't go as far to go, yeah, let's do a paper and change some stuff. Good board.
Through the chair, I think we made those choices, and then he came back to us.
Yeah.
So that's how it worked.
How does the board want to proceed?
Be good to have a workshop to understand it more on a personal level.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Would be good to have a workshop because we did discuss that, just so that we can understand it a bit more, what our options are.
You want to see a date?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that we wait until after September.
You know what you've got.
The whole of dominoes there, and they're all fit together. Once we know some of the bigger stuff, we can work out what we want to do with our special project.
Now I understand what it is. We'll leave it there. We're looking at September.
Everything?
That's a good cheap book. With
often the land.
Mr. Gibbs, come back to the border scope of work crossing the Queen Victoria Street cycle path. Is that still relevant now, or is that potentially getting picked up in transport choices as well?
You spoke about that before.
Yeah, so that's okay. All right. Is there any other items from board members? Never say never on a short agenda.
Special projects one that I sent.
Yeah, we got it. Yep. So I moved that, I'm sure, seconded by Art. All those in favour, aye. Carried. Okay, special projects. Here we are. Got to go through the ones we've got here first. So we've got two experts sitting behind us. Come and join us. I like it how names are here now. Things happen when you see an opposite name there. So we're on page 23 of here, and on the special projects list, we're at Thorpe Bush. And any updates in terms of into the 8th? Update from Tony. I like it. No further progress.
Through the chair, some consultation to occur with iwi.
Right, of course.
We've done so, and this relates to the North Street Playground as well. It's not just Thorpe.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the lower part of there's not an action for North Street. Although there's two projects that I'm charged with looking after. And yeah, I still need to do some iwi.
Go through sensitive areas.
Yes. So
the skate park, I've seen an email from Lynn, I can't remember, but the dates. Oh, sorry.
I just asked a question about that one. Is any of the work that you're doing there and talking with Maori about it contingent on the result of the 10th judgment that's now being heard in Wellington?
no. Well, we just we have an obligation to consult with iwi on most of our projects, especially in sensitive areas. So as far as I'm concerned, we continue to go and do what we need to do.
So is the tents, is reserve land subject to tents, or is that the reason why we didn't classify some reserve land? That much about?
Also, no, it's
I heard Corinne's discussion on RNZ, and I gathered that all council held land is part of the possible.
I understand, but I don't know if reserve has, but not freehold council land.
I heard.
Actually, we probably could. Are you interested in a session and update on that? Because it is significant from Motueka.
Very listening to it closely.
Through the chair, we'll go there. Yeah, right.
Just going to say there is some land that we manage, I guess, on behalf of the Crown. So it might be Crown owned, but we administer it.
Let's get rid of that.
That's council.
Be handy. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good if we had a workshop bringing us up to date on where that tenth claim is, because you are right, some of our land is under question in it. That's why it hasn't been gazetted, so to speak. I just wanted to put on the table that the Motueka Youth Council are back meeting. They had a meeting last week. They've got another one coming up. So when you're doing anything to do with Thorpe's Bush, my lovely men at the end of the table, could you please include consulting? And at the moment, Anna is the person facilitating those hui.
Certainly, they will be high on our radar for sure.
And when it comes to the skate park, board chair, councillor Maru, whatever your handle is. So Lynn Hall has been in touch with me. There will be someone from the Mott Youth Council that will speak, but Dan Shalcrest is also shoulder tapping a said regular user of our skate park and hoping and encouraging that we could get them to speak as well.
Good.
And the date has been put out from the beginning of September towards the end at this stage.
Yeah, correct. So Lynn sent that through, and the mayor's going to be there too. I think it's going to be a barbie.
I believe so.
For a free sausage.
I don't know if I'll be eating the sausages because I could be the one cooking them.
Yeah. But just the update, it's been pushed out. There was a little bit of an issue in the new bowl in terms of drainage, just my understanding. So I've had to rework some of that.
30th of September.
So that's the skate park. Accessible playground, Dex Reserve. You've waited an hour and a half to talk about Dex Reserve.
Well, I have to apologise through the chair because I did say.
Wait an hour and a half to apologise.
Yeah, well.
He's a patient.
I did say that I wasn't able to provide some information. I'm really mindful of Councillor Walker being involved with seeing some information because she is our sponsor. So, but I did bring some information that's hot off the press from yesterday, but it's not available to everybody. I can't hand it around here, but like I said, I'm mindful of Councillor Walker seeing it as well. So I'm happy to bring it back to the next meeting. It's all to do with some of your decisions you have to make that's wound up with the RFCs.
Okay, so it's held up with the RFC.
Yeah, well, the decision, you can't really make a decision on it anyway, but because I was able to get something together yesterday, I thought I'll just bring it along just in case, but not realising that Councillor Walker wasn't going to be here or see it. I'm happy to pass it around or wait and send some information to all the members.
Why don't we wait until next month? And if you catch Councillor Walker in Chambers, then yeah. All right. Happy? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. What else have we got here? Marahau Sandy Bay Association. No, let's move on. Motueka Cemetery, so just clarity, 8K, I just watched that month's mini board meeting the other day. So the 8K is going to be used for capital works and the existing plan, that's my understanding. Yeah, cool. And Steve's looking after that. And beautification of High Street, member Hughes.
Which I thought was ages ago.
I remember this, I remember how this happened.
Oh,
This is the plaques, eh?
Yeah.
Is that what you've been preparing?
When you mentioned plaques, I went, oh yeah, I've got to. You sent me into panic. Oh, okay, well, I've been given the privilege of sharing what the new plaques will actually look like. I'll pass it round. This is just 3 of them. They're going to be this size from the black there and the old building. And as Grant pointed out, we've just realised that the old B&Z buildings must all be of the same design because that's exactly the same as his gallery. There you go. So once again, the thing, I love this sort of thing. When you go to a building that might have changed or been gone, and then you look at the history behind it or what it used to be look like. So I'll pass it around. Bedford House is there as well. And the Stillwell sawmill, which I understand became Whitwell's menswear. So
nice.
I think that's going to be a great thing.
Excellent.
People can wander around and have a wee look.
Yes, so our town's been working with the Historical Society, is my understanding.
So going back to that plaque with, just wonder if there's opportunity for the Historical Society to do some research and then come back to us and we can, graphic design it or whatever. But if they could do the research for us, that might help getting the story of
on Edward Ferren.
On Edward Ferren, yeah.
So it could be designed in the same format on the metal with the frame.
Okay. We'll fund that, of course, but
absolutely. I wouldn't have it any way.
What member knows?
Through the chair, are they going to be the same as the ones in Antarctica?
Yes.
Brilliant.
We've been dealing with the Golden Bay Heritage.
Brilliant. They're very popular. Really good.
They've helped us out a lot.
Good. Yeah.
What member Armstrong?
I'm just, do we know how many plaques are going to fit into $10,000 now?
15.
15. How many we designed?
Actually 16 now, because Mr. Ritt's got to fund one.
That's right. He's going to fund one. Yes, yes. So
Boring, aren't they?
we've got 13. Sorry, shouldn't really be done. Yeah. We've got 13.
We've got 13 ready.
That's great work. Love it.
Thank you.
Okay. High Street, yes. Saltwater bars. Lynn's got it under control.
I just add, I think that ties in a little bit with the transport choices as well.
What member Armstrong?
It's a landscaping project rather than a construction thing. So, or construction may be in it. But just keep Motueka Beautiful aware of it and could be involved in. I mean, they're experts in the plant choices around the foreshore.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Lynn's had conversations with Keep Motueka Beautiful. She may have done.
Maybe just ask it.
I think she.
And then the cycleways, the next one is tied up with transport choices. That's the one where we've moved bits around with the Alliance, and basically there's an amount of money to do that link. And Lynn's looking after that. And there's been agreement reached, I understand, between Parks and Reserves and Transport Choices on
Yes, yeah, I understand. But,
not unanimous, but there's been agreement. Councillor
With the red bit there that says from Lynn says this work is not linked to the Transport Choices project.
I guess that's what I was trying to explain. It could be the Transport Choices project could encompass that area. And then the question is what happens to that funding?
Yeah.
And whoever else has been involved need to be consulted That's the advice that we've received from Rob Grady.
Okay, yeah.
Because my understanding is we're talking the section we were going to do from their arm past the swimming pool. And then that's the bit that Drew agreed to do from the Alliance. And then so Lynn came to us and said, can we do the Harbour Masters back to the front of the camping site, or back to the toilet block essentially. So essentially there was that amount of money to do that strip that then fed into transport choices coming through that new part from Darling to Avon Street. So although they might have been, they linked to each other, it makes sense to do them in the same.
Right, but I just see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, says it's not linked to the transport choices.
So I guess in terms of it maybe getting done, I don't know, but certainly getting funded by the board.
I think Lynn was trying to explain that it's separate. Yeah, separate to it, and then this transport choices option came along afterwards.
Any questions?
But not part of it.
Yeah, not transport,
not linked.
So you'll see the update from Steve in terms of which way? And Board Member Armstrong, please save me. Yep.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that Men's Shed, I can't be aware of this. Men's Shed approached me with a seat that they already made for another project.
Yeah.
A beautifully designed seat, a really top quality one. They thought they'd have out there. So
yes.
Oh,
I'm
right.
hoping that will be included in that design.
That's right. And I know you've had discussions with Steve.
I sent an email, I haven't heard anything back.
I also sent one out.
And you did save me because the Men's Shed left a message on my phone on a Sunday morning that I remember listening to, but then never cleared again. And then I saw your email. I rang them and apologised and said, Board Member Armstrong's the person to contact if you want to get things done. So thank you. You did save me.
Just to make a note as well, in that design as well, the tables were the disabled access.
Oh,
tables. If you could just not forget that the men's shed made.
Great.
The walkway kai tiri tiri. Yep. Just noted. Then the last one. Will we need that? I wonder if Rob's got that in his budget.
The guy I talked
There and part.
to him about
Different part, isn't it? That's a different part. It's a different part. We're talking.
Oh, yeah, that's
Where to
down to the right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't actually know who's looking after that. So that's Grant. The re-gravel and upgrade of the footpath cycle along Queen Victoria Street between Whakatua and Park Street. Oh, Councillor Della.
And has part of the transport choices possible option. And it will go around the corner, down the front of the marae, around the back of the trees and back out onto Park Street, etc. The issue is at the moment is to protect the trees. And quite a bit of money to be spent on the drain around the corner because otherwise they can't get the path wide enough, as I understand. So if you talk to Dan, he can fill you in exactly what he's up to. And that he was talking to the planners and he was, I understand, talking to the marae about what could happen. That was part of our weekly update, wasn't it, Brindy? Yeah, I thought so. Your memory's not that bad after all.
Rude. Yes, that's right.
Probably Armstrong.
I talked to Dan earlier today about this, and yeah, it's a great idea to be able to extend the whole thing around, but there are problems. The existing part, so I went back and had a look at it. It was a perfectly cyclable, that's the word, path about 10 years ago, because I was cycled along a number of times, but it just degraded badly, and the trees were hanging over it. They've all been cut.
Oh, have they?
I think last that was all clean there, but there's nothing done on the gravelling, so I don't know. Council Joel, I suppose, and we've got the money for it.
I rang Rocket too and asked them to deal with their trees when they were doing the Kapakainga upgrade, which they're doing at the present time. They come back and they went, oh, the contractor's just left, so we might have trouble getting it sorted, but if they've done it, Because I said, if we do it, we'll charge you for it. So it might be cheaper to get your contractor back.
Nice. Any other things in the special projects from you two gentlemen? Anything else before we?
No, not on my plate. Just dealing with a few little bits and pieces at Sports Park, aren't
The
we?
new youth hub.
Eh?
The new
Oh, yeah.
youth hub of town.
I'm meeting tomorrow, meet electrician.
Somewhere.
Yeah, just deal with some kind of vandalism mitigation, some sensor lights. Gonna look at trying to get some cameras in. What else?
Just to let you know, they managed to break into the back door, destroyed the lock. This is going to cost quite a bit of money to replace if we can sort it out.
You know, I see on camera. Have you talked to Ken Nichols? There's probably budget for within what the board's provided to.
I think we have got some budget, but I know Rob's dealing with it. He's put a little bit of effort into it because we're doing a bit of same sort of thing, something in other places. So,
the best hopeful outcome is similar to the Thorpe Bush one, where it wasn't actually a young person. That would be the best camera footage I could ever see.
Yeah, well, we know it's they filmed themselves, haven't they? So,
Police have been over. I've got it sorted pretty much, but there was a party in one of the rooms. And then just last week, there was identified that there'd been drug use in one of the rooms as well. So, yeah, we get the lock sorted.
Yeah.
A bit stropped, but we will get the lock sorted and they won't have a place to go. And hopefully they won't go back and burn any more seats.
Board Member Hutt, you've just got a table of a potential project depending on when they come up and how we do that and how we allocate that, and that was towards the banners and High Street project.
Yes, so the flag track system, which is a new system they use all over New Zealand, in Nelson as well. Have they got them in Richmond?
I use them in Motueka, actually, they're superb.
Yes,
They take
yes.
away the grief, don't they?
Yeah, so basically, the advantage to Motueka having this is that we don't have to money on traffic management. We want to bring the flags up and down. So long story short, we've got funding from the NZ Community Trust, which is the gaming machines at Hotel Motueka. We asked for 20, we got 10. We've asked for 10 from various other places. They either haven't got the money or they've already allocated it, or it doesn't fit in with their diversity criteria. We're desperate. Flag tracks have held the price now for nearly a year. We really want 20. 10's just going to look terrible. So I'm just going to throw you onto the bus, Barry.
So one of the e-buses or the?
I was talking onto the e-bus. No, I was talking to Barry, and he suggested, you know, talk to you guys about maybe it being special projects because we've just run out of options. And the benefit as well is the quote is for the Matariki flags and the festive flags with the wish of having all sorts of festive flags throughout the year, and also the Arts Council are waiting desperately for these flag tracks to be funded so that they can put their flags up. So it's sort of a chicken and egg thing. We just really, we're desperate.
You want more money, don't you?
We want 10,000.
Can you desperation, so the project's there, in terms of determining the special projects, whether there's another round, whether what they've done for the board to decide, and I guess the earliest time they can do that is September after RFC conversation. But I guess it's time to reflect in terms of what the board wants to do. So I know there was some suggestions at last month's meeting in terms of, do you go back to the other projects that were on the list that were lower, but you'd already consulted? Do you open it up again? Are there other projects? So that's what the board's going to have to decide. So when we've got a clear on RFC special project balance, then that'll be September, surely, that we can get that done. And just noting that that's a project that the board can consider within that.
So in preparation for that, I've emailed yourself and Emma. Do I email the rest of the committee?
It's just been tabled, so we're not going to make it. Because firstly,
Let's send correspondence so people won't know what I'm talking about.
because firstly, the board need to determine whether it's just going to fund the other 5 projects that didn't get in, or whether you want to look at new ones, whether you want to consult, whether you want to change that budget, put some of that money into discretionary grants. So you've got a whole big conversation to have before you can, and then there might be some others that pop up. Board Member Armstrong.
I think it's probably a pertinent time anyhow to look at and get into a workshop situation. The draft I've made that I've sent to you a couple of months ago about special project rules and setting them up properly, because they've been working or not working under ones that were set out back in June 2015, which are not coherent. There's no set of rules, and we haven't followed them. That involved a whole lot of things that have never been done since then. So I've been, this time last year, I think I remember a meeting, at one of our meetings, June or July, I was asking, please, if we could redo the whole rules around this, like we did with the discretionary funds, and actually work something that works.
I
think it's something fun to do that before we.
I've seen something from Elaine. It's gone to Democracy Services. Is that right? Have you sent something to Democracy?
I sent it to you. I think
I thought I saw something, because Golden Bay's obviously got special projects too now. And do these? I haven't even looked at yours. So they look. Do they relate to our rules? Are they different? Is there a bit?
Looked at theirs. So yeah, I don't know if
maybe it's about discretionary grants to get things simple. It's just the amount.
Just through the chair, I don't have anywhere near as much funding as you do. I think we only have about 10K a year, so it's kind of a different scenario. But
yeah, okay.
I'll come back again.
Yep.
We also have this other discrepancy at the moment. We've got this huge surplus. It's just built up and built up. How we deal with that is another issue as to how we should go forward from then every year to spend on projects that that will fill the budget close enough to without.
I think one of the key challenges is when we have projects that we have people say it's a great idea and a great project, and community supporter would go yes. It's where we don't have a council officer down the side to make it happen, so it usually falls over. Or there's an external agency like Keep Making Motueka Beautiful or Our Town that actually go, just give us $10,000 and we'll do that. It's where it's left in the midst for one of us to have our names to it. It tends to stall and tends to sit there for a long period. So maybe that's part of the rewrite in terms of special projects need to be ready to go, need to be led by somebody, and they just need the money rather than a nice to have. So is there somebody who would like to do some drafting around special project stuff for a pre-workshop? Because it'd be nice to come to a workshop with your thoughts and something articulated. Then we can go through it, send it through to probably Mike Drummond before, and then bring it to a paper to the community board to get ratified.
I'd be very happy what I have drafted as a discussion document. That drafted why a suggestion of what the rules could be, but it's more about how we got to this point and what things haven't worked and what have. And really for discussion, not for I think this is what you should do.
Okay.
So I'm happy to through you to send to everyone, or
that'd be
send
great.
back to you again, and you can set that out.
Councillor Dowler.
Yeah, well, it probably is time to change it a bit, probably because I've been sitting around this table too long. Like years ago when this was first introduced, we were doing pram crossings or crossings on corners where council had no money to do it, but they wanted to do it. Through Elkington and stuff, we did footpath out of Brooklyn that was district redone. It was 218 or something on the footpath list, on the council list. So we brought that forward for kids' safety to go to school. We've done all sorts of bits. The cycleway that's being upgraded now from Manoy Street to Talbot Street was done. It was all on hard surface stuff, like that. I actually got a phone call from the dude who Claire's been dealing with, just saying, help, mate, your lady needs help, Our Town Motueka needs help. Is there any way that you can dig something out of council to help us out with the funding, so we can get this project over the line? And I spoke to Ms. Walker, if she's still there.
Yeah.
And we had a chat out in the car park out here about it. And then Our Town Motueka Hut happened to be walking past, so we told her, we thought special projects might be the thing, because the idea of the special projects was that the community got the benefit out of it from council or community board member decision. And to be honest with you, all the projects that I've been involved with over the years, this is the best one of the bloody lot, if we can make it work. I'm sorry, it is, because it's so visual. And if the flags are changed and everything like that, and it's right around the whole town, I have to say that it's pretty, you know, like I can talk about the pram crossings, I can show you where they are and that. But who cares? People, only the people that use them, you know, like
You say so.
when you've got visually things like, you have a look at the pole out there that's got a bracket on it with a rag that you wouldn't even blow your nose on now. That's the stuff for the town. I'm sorry, but that's my own personal opinion.
So Councillor Dowler, there's something in here that says the chair can do stuff, eh? So the chair's asking, are you moving a motion for $10,000 from the current special projects fund for this? And are you saying that Councillor Walker is going to second that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Is Councillor Walker happy to second that?
Yeah, happy second. And yes, I am still with you. I just give him a blankie because I'm cold.
So to be clear, I'm just, John and I probably won't be able to do a meeting together ever again after this. So in terms of some discretion and special projects, the motion that is in front of you is $10,000 to complete the flag track project with our town Motueka. Claire's going to abstain and not even have a facial expression. Discussion. So it's moved, Councillor Dowler, second, Councillor. Discussion. What's wrong?
I like the project, what it's going to do. The one thing that worries me is, again, coming back to process. Sorry, but this has got the potential to make the special project fund something that people could, large group could apply to, like the discretionary fund, but a big one. And so, you know, what's then to stop, say, the museum applying for $10,000 for some more storage space somewhere, which they have been asking for a while, or the Arts Council to perhaps pay for the winter workshop running. I like this project, and I think it's a good one, but just, again, if we get the process so that we don't have suddenly turn into every 3 months someone's applying for some of our special projects funds. That's the
thing. Yeah, we'll come back to Councillor there. You move that so you can have.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Board Member Armstrong, but just the other day I had someone from the public come up to me and say, you get those tattered flags sorted out around town. And I said, and I explained what was going on. So yeah, I also support it because I think it's a visual and it's something uplifting for the community. But I hear what you're saying with the process. And I guess because we're in a phase at the moment of having to relook at things because the RFCs and that potentially this is something that can fall alongside.
Board Member Hughes.
What's the fine? Not following the rules.
We're not saying we're not following them, but it's very unorthodox without a paper in front of us.
Oh, I was just wondering if you just wouldn't, if someone, heaven forbid, just went and did it, how much would you get fined? You know how these people, the fancy people with their chopped trees down are not meant to, and they just pay the fine.
You've got the. Anything else, Board Member Hughes?
No, I'll shut up. That'll be even bigger hole.
So I guess two things from my 2 cents worth is one of the things we're often critical of council is how long things take to happen and how long it takes to get stuff done. And I guess this is a prime example. You know, we'll have a paper in September, we'll make a decision, then we'll have another process to decide about something. That's sort of how this system works. The other thing in terms of...
So I can probably answer your question.
What's that? What's the fine?
So no. The community boards reserves the right to consider and approve such applications where there are exceptional and unique circumstances where the reasons for approval will be recorded in the resolution.
Yeah.
So I think you're covered, right?
And then
there's a current policy.
And then for the next part of Member Armstrong's point is process is the bit that keeps us on track. Otherwise, we'd just be throwing stuff everywhere and going everywhere. But perhaps this is a little bit of a highlight is perhaps special projects could be a little bit different. So in thinking about the rework in the workshop, is it a bad thing for groups to come and go, that's a great idea, board considers it, and we do grant $10,000 to sign that? But perhaps that's some of the reworking that we'll do. So I guess on those bases, I'll support it. But Councillor Walker and then right of reply from Councillor Dowler.
Well, I think it's fair to say we're sitting on this poodia, so we have this money, and it's exciting that actually we have an opportunity. And as John Ridd just he's just covered our butts by quoting that.
What he's there for?
States we can. I know, keep coming. I say. I think it's exciting, and I'm not worried at all if my community come in to the next community board meeting going, oh, how exciting you've been able to push this
we had about
through.
30 here today. We're 50 next month.
But if there's a genuine need and we can tick one of those boxes and we're sitting on the money, we should be spending it in our community. That's what we're here for. That's what the money's for. Right,
We should be investing in our communities. Thank you. Councillor Dowler, your right of reply.
Okay, so I'm going to turn around and be a little bit of a fly in the ointment. When the man rang me and that, I had a good think about it before I had a chat to Trinity. I didn't know that Claire had $10,000 from the pub charity at that stage. It was only in the discussion in the car park. And that was what convinced me that the special projects, so they've got 50% of the money available. So, they've got 10 grand to put to it. We're matching that for a community project. So our town have done their bit, come up with the funding that they can. We're coming up with the other half of it, and hopefully we can progress it. If our town Motueka had walked in the door tonight and said we need $10,000 for some flagpoles, I probably would have said no. It's just the fact of the way it's happened, and you've got the money there. It's convinced me for it to happen.
So move Councillor Dowler, second Councillor Walker. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
I think just for previous, if we refer to clause.
Allowed to have a facial expression.
No, not yet. After we've had, so I'll move the special projects report, seconded by Board Member Hughes. Those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And then closing karakia.
Very happy. I'm very happy. Thank you.
Great. Okay, feel free to join us.
Stuff. Well done.
Wamatu a mātou mahi, mo tēnei wā, manaki tia mai mātou toa o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau aio ki te aorangi.
Awesome. And that is, I guess that's meeting closed. And